that was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
Made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue to all sides.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thanks for joining us in our 3 million homes. We're in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, 50 parishes in Louisiana, and 4 counties over in Mississippi. Or whether you're watching us on our 25,000 social media friends out there and family, we call you because you are our family, or whether you're watching us anywhere in the world on YouTube. We appreciate your viewership. I started 8 weeks ago looking at what was going on with COVID-19, and I was seeing so much information and disinformation and misinformation. So I said, let me try to bring some closure to people and some true information, or real news as they call it on some channels. People who keep up with Dianne Andrews in Black and White know that Dr. Todd, who passed about 3 weeks ago, was on my show all the time. He was a very good friend of mine. I spoke with him 2 weeks before he passed. He wanted to come here and do some of the COVID shows with me. But we did Ebola together, which started in Ebola River in Africa. We did Zika together, which started in Africa. We did in November infection control for the homeless. So where he is up there, thank you for all the years that you worked with us here at Dianne Andrews and Black and White, Dr. Todd. So we started off with epidemiologists. Then we went on. I wanted to show how do we clean surfaces, because that is one of the biggest differences in this virus than the flu. It's and pneumonia. It's how long it stays on surfaces. This one stays longer than any virus out there that's known of today. It stays up to 72 hours on hard surfaces, and it has been known to stay longer in dark enclosed places, like in some of those cruise liners. So then we went on and we did 2 other shows. One, I wanted to do Tele-Justice, and we did that with Dr. Judge Don Johnson of the 19th District Court. And Sheriff Gilbert sent a letter that they have released 1,000 of our prisoners into the area here because of COVID-19, and I'm assuming some other matters too, but that was half of the East Baton Rouge prison system, over 1,000 prisoners that he wrote me a letter back. As you know, the sheriff has been on the show here before, and we appreciate all that they do and all that they're doing as essential employees out there today to keep us safe. And then I did telemedicine. I wanted to bring in a doctor who actually had COVID-19. So we brought in a survivor of COVID-19 who showed you there are other symptoms than you particularly see all the time. She had bad backaches, and she had severe fatigue, and never had nausea and vomiting of that much fever. And she had deaths. She's had some of the first deaths over in River Parishes, and 80 patients with it. Then we went on yesterday. I filmed 2 shows, one with an infectious disease doctor who really worked with viruses and bacterial infections. So she really knew a lot, and we'll have that show out soon. And then I want to talk about this isolation. What is it doing to normal people like me, right? And other people who have mental disadvantages. So we talked about that and gave you all some tips of what to do. So then I wanted to do Tele-Education, because so much has reformed to our Wi-Fi's, our internets now. And I wanted to do a couple of shows on education, but I wanted to start with an alternative school, which means that these are children who have been expelled from other schools. So we know or think that if the people running these schools can get this done there, then everyone else should be able. Not that it's going to be easy for anyone, but we're starting with on the middle school, the East Baton Rouge Readiness Academy, and we're going to talk to the principal of that school and one of the social science teachers there. They have 200 students, and they're doing very, very well in that alternative school. As you know, East Baton Rouge Parish is the 2nd largest school system in our state, with 41,000 students, 5,200 employees, and 3,500 teachers. So come on back and let's see how many people are missing Wi-Fi in their homes. Can they really do tele-education? Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I think you'll find out a lot, because probably some of your children are doing tele-education right now. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. As you see, there are two guests with us here today, Dr. Shirl E. Gilbert II, and we have Taylor Clark, who's a social services teacher over there, social studies teacher over there. Dr. Gilbert has a very interesting background. He came here as a PhD. He was awarded his PhD from Purdue University and went on to do leadership postdoctoral at Harvard University. So he has quite a background in education. He's had a plethora of jobs, a plethora of awards, and a plethora of organizations that he belongs to. I think Phi Beta Sigma is probably one that you're a lifetime member and you're most proud of, Dr. Gilbert. Thanks. Thanks for that one, right?
Absolutely.
But is there any one thing that you could say, any organization or any award or any affiliation that you're most proud of?
Well, I'm what's called a Distinguished Service Chapter member of Phi Beta Sigma. And
we still go back to Phi Beta Sigma, okay.
That's the highest honor you can get in the fraternity.
Yeah.
And I'm the first man of Sigma in 105 years who was elected to the Distinguished Service Chapter, and his father was also a member of the Distinguished Service Chapter.
Oh, wow.
So my father went into the Distinguished Service Chapter in 1969.
Was he an educator also?
No, he was a pharmacist.
Okay. In St. Louis?
In St. Louis.
Yeah, you're from St. Louis.
Had his own store and worked at Homer G. Phillips Hospital there in St. Louis. And so I'm proud of that. Just recently, I've been elected the president of the Baton Rouge Area Panhellenic Council. That's all the fraternities and sororities in the city. So we've been shut down.
It's all the black ones?
Yeah,
right, it's all the black ones.
All the black ones.
Right.
The Divine Nine.
Right.
And we've been kind of shut down for a few months because of the virus. Hopefully, if they're saying we're going to start opening up, I'm going to try to see if I can get everybody back together.
As of tomorrow, the governor said 25% of you can have 25% occupancy, but they're going to look at us again on June 5th and determine, did we do bad or did we do good on this? And all of it is not up to us. 40% of all deaths are in hospitals, and I mean in nursing homes, and veterans homes, and long-term care facilities. In Pennsylvania, 70% of the deaths are. In Minnesota, 80%. So something went wrong in those states, because states control those operations there. And Taylor, how long have you been there at this school? How long has the school been here, East Baton Rouge Readiness Academy?
Well, it's probably been around for 10 years. I took over 4 years ago.
Oh, you've been there 4 years?
Yeah,
okay.
I've been there 4 years.
And you were asked to do it because you've had you were a principal many years ago.
No, not only principal, superintendent.
Right, but
25 years superintendent somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was working in the central office, first doing executive director, and then I was one of the supervisors at Title I, overseeing that money that we pass out to all the schools every year and trying to make sure everybody's following the rules and regulations.
You made a lot of friends and a lot of enemies during that one.
without a doubt. But I'm committed to young people. Yeah. And anything I can do to help the system, I will. I'm in this position because Mr. Drake, the superintendent of the IBAW schools, personally asked me to take over this position. He had several principals there. None of them had been able to move the school. They held it down, but they didn't move it. And so he asked me because he knew of my experience, if I would take it over, see if I could turn it around. And I think in these 4 years.
Well, has he, Taylor? Let's see. Has he turned it around, Taylor? How long have you been there, you say?
This is my first year.
Oh, this first year. You can't tell us then. Not enough experience. But it's 200 students. You're the only alternative middle school. There's one for every
grade level.
Every grade level.
Primary, kindergarten, high school, and then we have all the middle school students.
And that's 200 students, I think.
Approximately 200. We fluctuate up and down. We've been up to 220. In some years we were down like 185, 190.
Well, out of those 200, Taylor, how many have internet connections? How many can you do tele-education with?
One of the jobs we had to do starting off was call all of the parents of our homeroom students to make sure who could do this. So there were some that just didn't have access to Wi-Fi. And then I believe Cox was running a deal, so we contacted the parents, see if we couldn't get them some Wi-Fi.
Deal, was it free to students, or it was very cheap?
No, it was very inexpensive,
But to some people, $2 a month is too much, especially during this time.
You're right. They had some who could present themselves as really needing it, and the kid couldn't learn. And they did give some free to a few people who met the guidelines.
So once we figured out that there was a couple of kids, especially in my homeroom, that couldn't, then we offered them paper packets, right? And that didn't mean we dropped them off a packet and we were done until they put it back in. We actually have to call the parents, make sure they're doing it, because we don't want them to fall by the wayside just because they can't log on to Wi-Fi. That's not the student's fault.
Right, it's not.
We have to do our due diligence.
And it happened so quickly. I mean, no one had time to prepare. When you get a proclamation basically from IHME, that's the modeling out of University of Washington, that Bill Gates, that he endowed them $1.25 billion the last 10 years. So I think they're going to try to do with the job that he's asking them to do, the largest endowment ever to the University of Washington for that Institute of Health and Metrics evaluation. And they said we would lose 3 million people in America during this COVID-19. How many of your students you had to do the paper packets with?
I would guess it's less than 10%.
Less than 10, so 18 to 20 students you had to do that with.
Probably we had about, I was at the office most of the days when parents came to pick those up. That youngster that Mr. Clark talks about was lucky because he got it to him.
Yeah.
But sometimes parents had to come. If they didn't come, we tried to find a way to get it. I took some personally myself. We wanted to make sure they had a way to continue to educate. Is that daily?
They pick them up or weekly?
They pick them up once a week.
Once a week, weekly.
And that's during the time. Now, we gave them in these closing days, we gave them a bigger packet that they had to complete by next Friday at 2 o'clock. And some had 2 weeks, and some of them had a week. Because they weren't ongoing and learning situations with the teachers like the other kids were that Mr. Clark is talking about, we gave them a packet. They said, you're not going to school, you haven't got a job, you need to stay home and work on this packet. Show us what you can do.
They're middle school, they don't have a job.
That's right. Show us, a lot of them got jobs though, let me tell you.
Really? What age, what's the oldest?
The youngest is about 12.
Would be 11.
Yeah,
and
11 or 12. Oh, we've had 17-year-olds.
Really?
Kids who are very far behind.
Yeah.
Our kids are youngsters who are good kids. They're not bad kids usually. They find themselves in situations where the only option they know about is to fight. And that causes a problem for them. Many of them are with us because they got in a fight somewhere. Most of them are not dangerously involved because every now and then we have a kid with a gun that's a toy. And we don't know it's a toy because it looks like a real gun. And
it's a toy.
And they are expelled because of that.
They don't look at it and can determine that it's not real?
Well, it doesn't make any difference.
You can't bring a toy. Oh, he's like aiming it at people and scaring people.
You can't bring anything that looks like a weapon at all.
Yeah, because you're going to scare some people.
And we don't want to have to try to figure out who has a real one and who doesn't have one.
Let me ask you this: from Louisiana, from the state, did they, when this happened, and all of a sudden you had to do tele-education, did they send you any guidelines to go by? You made your own up. Okay.
No, the Department of Education sent guidelines to every school district in the state.
Oh, that was good.
Indicating that we wanted to the extent that we could do distance learning.
Yeah.
But when we couldn't, the school just had to come up with a way to keep the kids actively studying and to have some documentation for their promotion or attention at the end of the year.
Right. Are you all finding that the students overall enjoy this better? Is it too soon to determine? Or what are you seeing out there as a teacher?
Some of them have taken to it really well. The other ones, it's a process for all of us.
Yeah.
We as educators had to learn some new things. We had to figure out a direction, and we had to be really explicit with our instruction. But we have a lot of communication with the kids. If they don't understand something, I have my laptop in front of me 9 hours a day.
What do you use, Zoom to do this with?
We have Google Classroom.
Google Classrooms. And so are all the students, can you see them all, or is it one-on-one? How do you do this?
I actually don't have any video conference with my kids at all. Where Google Classroom is set up, it looks like Facebook. It does. So there's a stream, and then you hit a button where it says classwork, and they have all their assignments. I can see where they turned it in. I can actually look at it.
What if they have a question? Can
they will actually send a message, and it will show up in my email and chime, and I'll be able to look at it, and I can respond right then and there.
Because I've seen some educators on TV, and they may not be this state, but they can see
both ways.
Yeah, it's both way, two-way.
And we have some teachers who are using programs that allow them to have two-way communication.
Right. Like Zoom or Skype and all of that,
right,
FaceTime.
That's right. Many of them use all of that stuff. Others who have not been involved as much are using mostly the oral back and forth. They can talk and hear, but they can't.
You don't know
see
yet if there's a difference for a success rate versus the two. We haven't been doing it long enough.
No.
Yeah.
No, we started maybe a couple of weeks after the city was shut down, and we've been doing it for 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks.
Now, school is out until the next year, which is August, September, right?
Well, we don't know. We would have been out the 22nd of June. If we had regular school year, we'd been out the 22nd of June. Now we're staying in the distance learning activities and the work packets until the 22nd.
Okay.
Then the kids are released. We don't know when they're going to come back. We're waiting for instructions from the state relative to how we should prepare ourselves to open school whenever that is appropriate.
One thing, do you know how many people we lose from the flu every year?
Oh, many.
Let's try. I've done flu before with Dr. Bertard and pneumonia. 2018, we lost 80,000 people, from 81,000 from the flu, and we have a vaccine. And pneumonia, we lose 50,000 every year. So let's say, first it's going to be 3 million. Of course, Trump had no choice, but we got to close this down right there to close the best economy the U.S. ever had down. That's a hard thing to do because I did a show, as I told you, a show yesterday. That'll be on next week. And for people who were making great money, 40% of all people making $40,000 are out of work today. And a lot of people, even though there's stimulus packages out there, a lot of people don't want that. They want to get out of the house. They want to go to work. So it's kind of a delicate balance. Do I keep you locked up forever and you have no life anyway? Or do I do it with certain guidelines that, Dr. Burke and Dr. Fauci have set in place anyway? And, Louisiana looks like we're on the other side of the curve. But I guess my point is I was in healthcare for 18 years, geriatric home health. So I lived through the swine flu with people and everything like that. And I do shows on viruses and bacteria. And again, most people like you, and I'm nothing wrong with it, but hey, if I wasn't doing shows or hadn't been in health, I wouldn't know either how many people die from the flu. And we get a new vaccine every year, and that's because the virus mutates. And that is the most mutating virus ever, the flu, or respiratory virus ever. And so by the time they're making the shot for next year, it's already mutated. That's why it's only 50%, which means the DNA, the RNA on that changes. And I'm a mathematics. I'm a pure math major. You're an education math major. So 2 + 2 has equal 4 to me, right?
That's right.
And some things, but I guess we didn't know enough. But now, when you look at a state, and this is beside education point, but and then we're going to get back to that. But just for you to know when you're out talking facts, and if anybody asks you your opinion, maybe Dr. Gilbert, do you think we should reopen or not? California has 2,800 cases of death. We have 2,300 in Louisiana. California is 40 million people, the largest state in this union, right? We have 4.6 million. And so it looks like they did a mighty good job of doing something out there on the West Coast because, as you know, that's where it started. So if anybody asks you, if we continue to social distance, and there's a way to do that physically being there, like the restaurants, right, have to be so far apart.
Our governor has done a good job.
We shouldn't have had Mardi Gras, I don't think. That has nothing to do with your opinion.
What happened with that was that it was at the beginning.
No, it was not.
Yes, it was.
January 31st, we did it. January 31st, we said we stopped travel to China. This is the first country that did that.
Yeah, but the reality is, I joined the mayor of New Orleans to say
Tanya Cahill
that she did not have enough information at the time.
I was doing shows.
Mardi Gras came on.
Really?
To make a decision.
Oh, but toward the end we did. When was Fat Tuesday? That was like March 1st.
She basically closed the schools and closed the city, but it was after Mardi Gras.
No, but when was Fat Tuesday? Wasn't that February 28th or March 1st? It was toward the end. Because I've looked at it. I've talked about that it was toward the end. Because it's like 3 weeks of celebration, isn't it?
Well,
but when we had all the deaths in the parades, remember that?
Yeah.
Because that was pretty bad down there, too.
We had a couple accidents down there that hurt
people.
I want to tell you, though, I don't want to end this program without making sure we celebrate the teachers in Baton Rouge.
For sure.
And teachers across the country.
Yes.
Mr. Clark is a hero. He's one of the people who have every day done his job, make sure kids were engaged, talk back and forth with them, make sure they got assignments, etc. And he has replicated 3,500 times with teachers who have done just an outstanding job with unbelievable
hardships,
excellence and hardship, and still pull it off.
Right.
So I just want to make sure they get the credit. Many times they give the credit to the people at the top.
Right.
But we don't do it.
The workers are the
That's
people.
right.
I mean,
the worker bees are the teachers.
Yeah.
And they make a difference in the lives
just
of
like
kids
the nurses and the technicians in the hospital.
Right.
Hey, just like that woman who delivered my mail today.
That's right.
Let him talk about what you're seeing, Mr. Clark. Sounds like he bought you because you're one of his better teachers. It sounds like, although he said all 3,500 in the school system, of course, are great, but we know there's excellence at a higher level by some people than others, and no matter what we are in. Yeah. So I think he brought you on television because you're excellence at his highest level. So tell us how you could be replicated in the rest of the school system. What are you doing to the students? And do y'all give like evaluations? When I was at IBM, our people had to evaluate us, right? Mm-hmm. They once a year they told us what we were doing wrong. Mm-hmm. Do you all do that? Anything with the students? And do they say what they like about? I know you all evaluate the teachers, but have you all ever put in place something where the students can tell you? Not verbally, but online or in a. Well, ours was closed. You didn't know who said what.
We haven't really reached a point to where we know how they're feeling about it yet.
Yeah.
I would like to reach out after this is all done.
Yeah.
This is an experience.
No, I was meaning even before in the regular classroom. Did they get to tell you?
We get constant feedback from kids all the time.
Did they come up, they don't have a problem telling you, I don't like what you're doing? How do you do it? Is it a formal process or just they come and kick you and say, I don't like what you did? Is it formal or what, Mr. Clark?
Many of our kids will talk.
They will. Our kids require a lot of patience.
Is that regular? Is that normal? I know this is alternative, so is that normal in all schools? In the mainstream, quote mainstream?
Most educators are patient and tolerant and committed to have the kids be successful.
Yeah.
And we do the same thing.
Yeah.
We have to change the way we do that because of our kids. But we find that our youngsters in many cases will turn themselves around, begin to think differently about school after being with us for 3 months, 6 months.
Can they leave you after a year if they do well and go back to mainstream school? Or what do you call it? What's the right word for
the regular schools?
Regular.
It's an alternative in the regular school.
Regular.
Our kids who are expelled have a hearing before they come to me with the Child Welfare and Attendance Office.
Oh, wow.
Social workers and counselors and people. And they have a chance to speak their mind, and their parents have a chance to defend them. That group makes a decision whether the principal's suspension was unjustified and they go back to the school, or whether they think it's justified. If they're junior high school, they come to us. If they're middle school, they come to us.
Right.
And we begin right away to work with them, having to know their limits. They can't do anything they want to do. They got to follow the rules and regulations. We have a 40-hour and 15-minute orientation for mama and the kid.
Or daddy. Does daddy come? Have a daddy?
We have some daddies come. Not many, but we have some daddies. Most of the time, the kids depend on.
I know there's a problem in some communities that, the matriotic society, right?
Yeah.
So is that a problem? Do you see that more in the alternative school than you do in regular mainstream?
I would say the parents that we interact with, there might be 10% that are male.
10%.
90% are female. And mama cares.
Oh, yeah.
Mama's sorry that they've made a mistake and found themselves with us. Sometimes they don't want to be with us.
Do you think the boys would do better if maybe the father would participate more?
No doubt about it.
No doubt.
If we had when the families that we have that are two-parent families, those kids always do better.
Right.
And so the youngsters that end up with us many times are single-parent youngsters.
Yeah.
And it's mama, and she's working 3 jobs.
She's doing the best she can do.
That's right. And she's providing leadership and food and a roof over their head.
God did create the two, male and female, for there to be two races in children, right?
And so we work with whoever is available.
And that's not derogatory to any mother out there, because I know what a great job they do.
They do
but I look at you. You talk about your dad and me. I know I had a great mom and daddy, right? And I'm sure you came from
Absolutely. I was a single parent.
And you were a single parent mother.
Well, it was me and my mom. My mom's parents, my grandparents were around, and my mom got remarried, and I had siblings later. I was 9, 10 years old when I got my first sibling, and it wasn't always the ideal situation. And I was maybe craving like a male father figure, and I got kicked out of more schools than most. So
So you can really relate to this situation.
It just so happened to be that.
That's why he's excellent. He knows what he did then, and he can make sure they don't do that or try to steer them in a different direction. And that's probably, a lot of times when people steal money with banks and stuff, those are the people that they bring in to show them how did they do it, right? Yeah, the crooks in the banks.
Yeah.
So is there anything you all would like to leave with the general public, with other educators out there who may watch the show, and with students who may see it on YouTube or social media or something?
Just be kind and be patient to people. Like, everybody's dealing with things in a different way. People got to process things in their own way. You just got to be patient and be kind to everybody.
Yeah.
It boils down, everything in life kind of boils down to that.
You know what, that is so phenomenal what you just said. It's a friend of mine. He's in California. He still sends out a text every day to people, even before COVID. He's does very well in California. Very good friends with Joe Jackson and people like that, Michael and all those people he knew very well. And the one thing he says, he ends every text with, is be kind.
Yeah.
Be kind to people. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, some people you can't be. They won't allow you to be. But as many people as you can be kind to. And because a lot of people, you have to give back what they give.
Kind should be the default.
Yeah, you're right. What would you leave, Doctor?
Oh, I would just say to parents who sometimes don't understand why their kids get in trouble at school and have to come to the alternative school, that it's not a bad situation for many youngsters who could use the structure and the guidance and the support that we give them at the alternative school. And so I wish I could change people's mindset and say that every school is there to serve. Well, you're
trying now on the TV. You're trying to do it now.
Every school is there to serve the needs of the children. If the children's needs are different, the school ought to be different to serve those needs. An alternative school is a different school. You have to have a different mindset. You have to be patient, understand where kids are, what problems they run into every day. And we have to overcome those at the school day. And I want them to feel safe at school, be about the business of learning and growing and responding to the limits and the freedom we give them at the school. Now, Ms. Andrews, we thank you for the opportunity to come on and get a message out that alternative schools just service the needs of the youngsters that we get.
Don't you think Tele-Education will stick in a way also?
I think schools are going to change.
Yeah, I do too.
I think when we go back to school, it's going to change. We're going to have a lot more requirement for our youngsters to stay home and learn. We're going to have to change the way we do things. They might do what they're doing with all of the companies. You can have only 25% of the youngsters that you used to have in a day. So we might have to have three periods a day where different sets of kids come to school. We don't know what that looks like now. We'll get some guidance from the education department for the state in a week. They said they'd have that for us next week, the beginning initial guidance, level 1 guidance. And we'll be different when school starts.
Sounds good. You all will be ready, and you'll have to train the new principal to be ready. Yeah. Thank you again.
All right.